KickAssetsJapan.
Hello everyone. This old lady came in to visit me when I'm preparing for my video here. Go ahead.
何探してんの？
いや違う、これからビデオ撮る。
あ、ビデオ。
そう、これ景色だから。
あ、景色いいね。
はい、そうですね。ごめんなさい。
偉い。もう日本に住んで長いの？
はい、24年です。
ああ、
はい。
それじゃ日本の心わかる。
そうだね。
日本人だ。
まあ、そう日本人になった。多分ね。はい。ちょっとずつね。1年ずつ日本人になってる。
そうだよ、上手だよ。
はい。
おしゃべり上手。
ありがとうございます。はい。かわいい。Cute little lady. Just as I'm taking my video here. Came to walk right through in the forest. Pretty funny, right? I think it's great. Yes. Very good indeed. はい。
あ、ここに映るんだ。
そう。Hello everyone. Today I'm happy to announce the release of Japan Real Estate Investment Bootcamp 2.0, where Shu and I have added 2 new modules to an already massive course on Japanese real estate in Japan. I will give you a sneak preview in this video of what I've added in the new modules. Well, I've added 1 module and Shu has added 1 module. So basically, Shu and I released our almost 10-hour bootcamp course in October, and because it was a huge success, we are planning on slowly improving it over the next few years and adding more to it. And it was a lot of work to make it originally, so why not? And I'm really happy with what we produced, and I hope you are too. So we've added about another 2 hours or so of material for 2.0, which people who have already purchased the bootcamp course, 1.0, can get for free. So now, how did I get here and who is Shu? Well, honestly, I was a noob to YouTube content creation and was kind of annoyed with all the clickbait BS videos on real estate in Japan and Akiyas. And one of the YouTubers I came across was Shu Matsuya Post, as many of you have probably seen on the internet. And to be frank, at first I wasn't happy with Shu with his negative videos towards investing in Japan real estate. So basically one day I commented on one of his videos, and unexpectedly, instead of getting mad back at me, and instead of getting mad at me, he basically responded kindly and wanted to interview me, which I did. And most of you have probably seen that interview. And even though he was interviewing me at that time, by listening to me, I could see Shu's opinion changing throughout the entire interview. And by the end of the interview, Shu made it 180 on his views on investing in Japan.
はい。
I am
あ、
glad.
わた腕が痛い。
はい。ごめんなさい。もうちょっとで。
左の腕が痛い。疲れちゃった。
I am really glad that Shu changed his view, and yeah, it was a great interview where I saw the transformation of Shu's view on Japanese real estate happen right in the front of my eyes. He admitted he was wrong and did a complete 180 on his views.
疲れた。ちょっと待って。
はい。
痛いよこっち。おばちゃん85やん。
85?
85歳やん。
はい。もうちょっと上。
疲れたよ。
はい。もうちょっともう頑張って。はい。人生1回しかないからね。はい、大丈夫。はい。So he admitted that he was wrong and did a complete 180 on his views. He then realized he could be a huge help to me on getting all my much needed knowledge out to the world via YouTube and a course, this course. I honestly had no experience with that, so on the flip side, I appreciate that Shu got me started in that area as well. So we were beneficial to each other. So we decided to join forces and create this amazing bootcamp course for you. We are thankful to each other and also thankful to all the people who have gone through the entire bootcamp course. I hope you can enjoy the new material and the new modules, and here is a sneak peek of what's new. Thank you. Enjoy. Have fun. All right. Japanese property. The good versus the bad. Now, there are positives and negatives to owning a property in Japan. At this current point in the timeline of the world and universe, I think the positives way outweigh the negatives with owning real estate in Japan. To put it simply, now is a great time to buy. Either way, I will go over the good points and bad points of owning a property in Japan. Also, I will give you my opinion on each point in how it regards to the kind of property and area in Japan, such as city, suburbs, and the countryside, as you can see here on my chart. Alright, let's start off with the good chart. I want to start with this because I want to make you feel good about buying a place in Japan. So the first great thing about a property here is that it is very affordable, especially in comparison with other Western countries that are currently overpriced, in my opinion. Way overpriced. Even with properties in the big cities in Japan, while more expensive than other areas, they are still very reasonably priced compared to other big cities around the world, such as if you compared New York to Tokyo. Tokyo properties are a lot lower, thus having greater value. However, I find the best deals can be found in the suburbs and the countryside. The suburbs tend to be nicely priced and have great value because it's not really that far from a bigger city and the area is fine in its own right. While the countryside isn't as convenient as the suburb or a big city, you can find some really dirt cheap properties if you don't mind sacrificing on some things such as having many amenities around you. By the way, my star system means that the higher stars means better, and the lower stars means worse. So that's why I gave the city 3 stars here, because it's expensive, and the suburbs 5 stars, because it has very, very good value, and the countryside, because it's very, very, very cheap. These are my current opinions of the current state in Japan. Alright, the second good point is safety and crime. And I gave this 5 stars across the board. I can honestly say that after living in Japan for 24 years, that no matter where you live, you're pretty much safe at any time of the day, no matter the place. There is also very little petty crime here, so you don't have to worry too much about people breaking into your home. I cannot say 100%, as you just never know, as it does happen. But I can say 99.9% with confidence that it's very unlikely, as it's not commonplace here, unlike it is in America and Canada or other Western countries. And in my 24 years here, I haven't had anyone smash a window or steal my bike that I keep outside my house, unlocked. I've had my nice e-bike outside my house here for 5 years and nobody's touched it. For me, this is a priceless part of Japan that the rest of the world sorely lacks. And I know to an American, it may sound like I'm crazy, but it is the reality at this current point in time in Japan. And I really hope it doesn't change with the influx of foreigners. The level of safety is my absolute favorite part of Japan, without question. Let's keep it that way, people. Thank you. Alright, next, on to the bad. Now that we talked about all the many great points of buying real estate in Japan, we now have to unfortunately focus on the bad points. I wouldn't really call them bad though. I would prefer to call them hurdles, that if you can overcome them, then you are good to go. So, remember my chart here? 5 stars means it's a good thing, and 1 star means it's bad. So the first one is the toughest and biggest one, which is the visa. Unfortunately, buying a property in Japan doesn't automatically give you a visa. Oh man, really? Yeah, sorry to say. So you need to find a way to get a visa if you want to enjoy your property for more than 6 months to a year. So you can come and stay here for up to 6 months, but then you have to leave. I think it's 3 months and then 3 months, but a total of 6 months in the year. So you can always buy a property and just enjoy it as is for that time, and then eventually come to Japan full time. But this is something you have to consider. And there are ways to get visas that I will not cover here, unfortunately. But to keep it simple for now, a simple way to get a visa is by getting one from a company. So obviously in that case, it's easier to get one in a big city, as getting a job in a big city is a lot easier, where there are many jobs versus the countryside. Hence why I give the city and suburbs 3 stars, because there are a lot of jobs we had there. But I didn't give it 5 stars because you still have to find that job, and you still have to find a company that's willing to give you that visa. Whereas the countryside only gets 1 star because there aren't very many jobs out there, let alone ones that can support a visa. So this is something very important to keep in mind. And this is the biggest hurdle a lot of foreigners have in Japan. Because a lot of people want to live here and stay here, but they can't. All right, let's get into the next section about Japanese Akiya and the hurdles. Yeah, this is a tough one, because I'm going to break a lot of hearts here by being honest. Some things you might not want to hear. But I'm making this section because of all the clickbait videos out there saying and showing you, well, just saying how easy it is to get an Akiya, when in reality, it isn't that easy. And there are a lot of hurdles you have to get over to be successful in getting one. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm also not saying it's easy. Now, everyone all over the world seems to have this idea of picking up a cheap property in Japan. And a lot of the videos point to the word Akiya. I talked about the Akiya myth earlier in the course, and this time we are going to focus on the realities of actually trying to purchase one. I would love to say getting an Akiya is a piece of cake, but in reality, it's not. And in this section, I want to focus on all the hurdles between you and your new Akiya. Like I mentioned before, Akiya is it's a really overused term. And for this part, I'm mainly referring to an Akiya as a property that is located more remote rather than ones in the city. I would honestly love to tell you that getting a remote Akiya is easy, but I'm very sorry to tell you that it isn't. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means it's not easy, and that you are going to need some patience, flexibility, and of course some luck, as you won't always be accepted for a property. 2 things I want to clear up here before I start. 1, Akiya is a generally used term for properties all over Japan, where they've been abandoned, kind of. But we can say one's in the city and one's in the countryside. Now I'm going to separate the 2 because the ones in the countryside have a lot more land and farmland included with them. And the ones in the city are more city opened houses. So we're going to focus on the remote ones here. And point number 2 is, even though I'm talking about properties in the countryside, whether they're labeled Akiya or not, I'm just using that for the term because that's what you understand. But some of the properties in the countryside are not really Akiya. They're people own them and they just want to sell them. So for the sake of terms and for everybody else understanding, we'll use Akiya in this point. But not all Akiya are Akiya, okay? You understand what I'm saying? I could refer to them all as properties, but yeah, Akiya seems to be what's going around these days. Alright, before we talk about all the negatives and hurdles of an Akiya though, let's list a few of the great reasons for owning one. Alright, Akiya, the good. So, what is so amazing about an Akiya, you might ask yourself? Or ask me. Well, I'm here to tell you the great things about an Akiya. And unfortunately, this will be nothing like a clickbait video by any means. The first and very best thing about an Akiya is the fact that you may be able to get one for next to nothing. Dirt cheap, as they say. This is what really attracts people to them. Everyone in the world wants to find a property that's amazing and on the cheap. But just keep in mind though, while you can get some pretty amazing deals, it doesn't mean all Akiya are 50 cents or free. But in some cases, in reality, you may just get what you pay for, as it may require a lot of renovations. But in some cases, you may get a steal. It's hard to tell. You have to be the judge of that when you compare the price and the property itself, the location and the condition. So these are things you just understand as you go along. You can see the price tag of $5,000. You're like, wow, what a great deal. And then you actually go see it and you see that the roof is caving in. Well, as you know, you're basically getting the land, or you're buying the land, and you have to replace the roof, which might cost you another $20-30K on top of that, depending on how big it is and how much damage there is. But anyhow, you get my point, that just because something cheap doesn't mean it's always good. But you might find a cheap property for $20,000 that is in great condition. It is possible. All these things are out there. There's good properties, there are great properties, there are bad properties, and there are complete crap properties. There's such a range. But the best point is that it's a possibility to get cheap properties in decent condition as well. All right, here comes the depressing part. It's going to be a long one, so please bear with me. Here we are with the reality of Akiya's and all its hurdles. I apologize in advance. All right, so let's get into all the hurdles with getting a property in the rural parts of Japan. It's not an easy task in the slightest, and you may not always get the exact property that you want, but bear with me. We will try and get you something you like. We just don't want you to be upset or angry when you cannot get the one you want. The honest truth is that it's very hard to get a property in rural Japan, as there are a lot of hurdles to get over, which I'll cover here. Obviously, every property is different, but here are the main ones to be aware of, and each property will definitely have a different number of hurdles to jump over or hoops to get through. Some may have 0, and some may have a lot. You just never know until you attempt it. All I can say, though, is be flexible, positive, and be a fighter, and never give up, as you'll get something eventually. And don't be sad if you don't get the one you want, because you have to remember there are a lot of properties out there and a lot of competition. You should be happy and appreciative to get at least one, because having a property in Japan like that is amazing in itself. All right, let's get into it. So the first hurdle with Akiya is something I covered earlier, the free Akiya myth. Oh, that one, yeah, I remember. I know a lot of clickbait videos on YouTube tell such things to viewers because they want to get clicks. But let's get back to reality here. Like I said, what do you think their incentive to do that to you is, to tell you stuff like that? It's to get clicks on their video. So they will use the most BS titles ever just to make you watch their video. And of course, I have to clean that up with my videos. I don't like telling false things to people, because then at the end of the day, I feel bad as well when their expectations aren't met. So I try to meet people's expectations by being positive, but also being real about it. And I always lower my expectations as well, because when you get something that you don't expect to get, then you're pleasantly surprised, which is a good thing. But it doesn't mean you can't reach for the stars. It just means to be aware of the negatives as well. Okay? And the other thing is most of these content creators may not even know much about Japan or even live here. I do, and I'm in this business. So I'm telling you, it's BS. And those kind of videos really make my blood boil, as I always end up having to re-educate people and calm down their expectations, if you know what I mean. Yes, you can get some great deals, but the reality is most are not free, and sometimes you get what you pay for. So be aware of this. Don't come over here with $5 in your pocket and expect to get a nice house. Besides, even if a house is labeled cheap, there may be a catch. If you keep your senses about you and are actually serious about finding a place, then there are some good deals to be had. So don't give up. Okay, now that this is out of the way, we can get on to the other real hurdles for people who are serious about buying an Akiya. But that's still number 1. I wonder how many people left the video after this. Sorry about that, guys. But the YouTuber told me it was true. Yeah, whatever. Sorry to burst your bubble. I hope you enjoyed my sneak peek at the new modules. If you want to know more or see more, then please click the link in the description below and enjoy the entire course of over 12 hours. Thank you. Wow, it's nice to see how the neighborhood's mold. You can see them changing. This used to be an older neighborhood with the older houses, and you can see the new houses coming in there, and the new roads coming in. You can see them widening the roads. I mean, 10 years ago this was all gravel road here, so things are changing. It's quite interesting how things are changing, you know. It's a beautiful old house here. House はこの辺ですよ。
ああ、そう。
はい、広がりとあっちですね。ありがとうね。
あいよ。
手伝ってくれて。何食べれるんですか？
これね、これ
はい。
ちょっとあったかいお湯入れて、
はい。
切ってお醤油かけて食べると美味しいの。
はい。なんていう名前ですか、それは？
これ肝臓。
肝臓。
肝臓にいいの。
あ、そうなの？肝臓だから肝臓って言うんですか？
肝臓。昔からこれ、おばさん。
はい。
肝臓。
はい。すごいですね。
これ美味しいんだ。
それ野菜？雑草？
雑草。
雑草。It's weed. She said it's good for the heart. すごいね。
これ、それで、
はい。
オレンジ色の花が咲くの。ユリの花みたいに綺麗な、6月に。
はい。でもう取ったら咲かないよね。
これまあ根があるからまた来年芽が出るやん。
はい。面白いね。She came to me when I was recording my video.
いいでしょ、この竹林ね、竹ね。
綺麗。
綺麗でしょ。
さあ、this is near my house.
お兄ちゃん頭がいいな。日本語上手だよ。
頭いいですか？
頭いい。
ありがとうございます。
大学行って大したもんや。
いや、私大学行ってないんですよ。専門学校、パソコンの。
パソコンの学校偉いな。
もっともっと天才です。
天才だ。お母さん元気？マザ
ー。いや、お母さん死んでる。しょうがない。お父さんは元気だからね。
そう。いいね。
そう。そうやね、入場。
これ肝臓。
肝臓。はい。お疲れ様です。